Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here. I'm trying to get a little PowerPoint presentation up for you, so she'll keep working on that, and if she can't get that up, well, then I'll just explain everything that we would normally show. So I want to say thank you very much for being here. I appreciate very much on a beautiful day in Wakulla County, you taking time out of your fishing and yard work and your work, wherever you may be employed, to come and be a part of the town hall meeting. You know, when we first started a couple years ago, it was our belief, it's still our belief, that we need to have more conversation with our leaders really at all levels. And so in an attempt to fulfill our commitment in improving that communication, today we are doing, fulfilling that commitment of having a town hall meeting in each one of our 16 counties. Last year we did 16 town hall meetings. This year we will do 16 town hall meetings. Today is our 8th town hall meeting in 7 days. So we did 6 last week, and we did 1 this morning over in Franklin County. And so it's nice to be here with you to bring to you some of the issues that we're facing in our nation's capital. I realized a long time ago that if you're going to have anything really that's of strength, you have to have trust and integrity, and that starts with communication. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to start a church, doesn't matter whether you're trying to start a business, doesn't matter whether you're in a marriage. Without communication, you will fail. And so in a desire to have a good relationship between the people and their government, it is my desire to have this conversation. So I'll have some comments that I want to share with you, and then I want to offer opportunity to do what I must do in order to strengthen that relationship and that conversation. I want to listen. So I want to field questions for you after my comments. But I want to share with you also, we do teletown hall meetings, and I don't know if you've received our phone calls, but about once a month we call somewhere around 150,000 residents throughout our district, and we want to have a teletown hall meeting with you, because I do not feel that I can get to everyone in our district. We represent a district that has almost 740,000 people in it, so it's just impossible to be able to reach everyone that we need and are trying to reach with town hall meetings alone. This is the largest congressional district in Florida, and so with over 12,000 square miles, 2 time zones, it's very difficult to try to physically see everyone face to face. So we do our teletown hall meetings, and if we call your home in the evenings, if you were to get one of those phone calls, it's certainly not meant to be bothersome to you. It is only a desire to make sure that you are a part of our process, our political process and governmental process. So during that hour, if you've never received one of those phone calls, what happens is we invite you to stay on the line, and for an hour to an hour and a half, we have a conversation, and you get to ask questions, and you get to hear, obviously, my answers to those questions. And if someone else asks a question, you get to hear that too. We have a lot of people that put their phone on speakerphone, and they just listen. They may not participate in the call by asking a question. They just might listen. And so that also is done in an attempt to make sure that people have the opportunity to express their thoughts, their concerns, and their desires of our government going forward. As you know, I've been privileged to be your representative now for 15 months, and it's I feel like I jumped in the deep end of the pool. So many of we've got plenty of challenges. I don't have to tell you, if you weren't concerned, you wouldn't be here. But we have, I tell people, our issues have issues. So there's a lot that we've got to do in Washington, D.C. to, I think, put in place fiscal sanity. I don't see that Melissa's been able to pull up our PowerPoint. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about some of the fiscal challenges, the financial challenges that we face. Now, before I do so, I want to tell you about, if you don't already know, the different committee assignments I have, because on our committees, that's where we spend a lot of our time, and that's where we have oversight on different things that relate to our district. We serve on natural resources. Natural resources is perhaps my busiest committee. Natural resources obviously deals with water. We deal with energy. And so on natural resources, I also serve on the fisheries subcommittee, which is, I know, always of interest to the 9 coastal counties that we have in our district, and Wakulla being one of those. It is an extremely busy committee, but one that I'm certainly enjoying serving on. The second committee I serve on is agriculture. Agriculture, the reason we ask to be on ag is because we believe that when you're a part of Florida, which is the second largest state in specialty crops, and we have some 250 specialty crops that we need we need some representation on that committee. So we serve on agriculture, and in agriculture, and I know we got some of the guys from forestry here today. We serve on the forestry subcommittee. So we are obviously very interested in our national parks and our national forests, because that's one of the committees of oversight on that committee. Also, third and final, we serve on transportation and infrastructure. Our transportation, obviously, in the state of Florida, we've got federal highways, we've got our airports, and so we've got a lot of things that we oversee. Our ports, we have a couple ports in our district. So on maritime, which is also part of transportation, that encompasses the scope of oversight. So if you look at our 3 committees, natural resources, agriculture, and transportation, I don't think I could be on 3 committees that really have a more say in our district. And instead of pursuing committee assignments that were perhaps something that may have been an interest to me in my previous life, I felt like that we needed to be on committee assignments that were a reflection of our district. And I'm very, very pleased to be serving on those committees and enjoying the time. I get frustrated and aggravated with some of the challenges we face on those committees, but I do feel like I'm in a good position to serve those that I represent. It has been our desire since we started to be your representative rather than your congressman. I'm of the opinion that with the challenges we face in Washington, D.C., that it is very, very important that we have true representatives of the people rather than people that think it's about themselves. And so, we left our family business, and now I've been there 15 months. But I come home at the end of the work week so I can do what we're doing today. So I can continue to speak with those I represent, to hear your challenges, hear your needs and your desires as I represent you. So thank you very much for being here today. If I sound a little hoarse, I am when you speak as much as we're speaking. So if you have a hard time hearing me in the back, please let me know, and I'll either try to walk a little closer to you or speak a little bit louder. But again, thank you very much. Now, over the last 15 months, since we have been there, everything that we have done has been in front of the backdrop of, I think, what is the most significant challenge we face in America today. And that is the fact that we have over a $16 trillion debt. That really, your prorated share of that is nearly $50,000. So if you took the American population and divided it into that $16 trillion, and by the end of 2012, the end of this year, it will exceed 16 trillion, 16,351. Earlier in the year, our national debt exceeded our annual GDP, our gross domestic product. So all of the economic activity that we produce in this country, it is now exceeded by our annual debt. We pay billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in interest alone on that debt. And as a father of 4 children, that concerns me greatly. But what concerns me even more than the debt is the environment that I find in Washington, D.C. doesn't operate with a sense of urgency.
Cool. They passed that tax real quick when that daggum gas tax ran out. Didn't take them 2 days to nail that bad boy back on.
Well, I know this. I know that if you look at that debt and you look at what has been done in Washington, D.C. To solve that, to move us in a direction, there is clearly there's no sense of urgency, and it is very, very aggravating to me. I'm always trying to be very, very fair. I think that government spending began to move in a very alarming direction, even in the prior administration to the Obama administration that we have now. And so I'm aggravated that government is continuing to swell like a river that overflows its banks, and is beginning to flow in areas that our founding fathers never intended the federal government to flow in. And it is continuing to put pressure on the states and the local communities. It bothers me that we just had, it's Congress's responsibility, the House's responsibility to produce a budget. And the budget request, let me say this, we voted on a budget last year and a budget this year. The President puts in a budget request, which each and every year the President of the United States does that. The President's budget request that we were given, President Obama, it was the 4th consecutive trillion-dollar deficit that he has requested. Last year, we took in $2.2 trillion. We spent 3.8. So when you spend 1.6 trillion more than you take in, it doesn't take you long to start racking up some very disturbing numbers. You can't do that in your own family. You can't spend almost 100% more than you take in. You can't do that in your business. You can't do that in city government, county government. And the states can't do that because most of our states have to have a balanced budget. So, but obviously we do not have that requirement at the federal level. So, it is and I believe that we should have that requirement. But as far as the debts or the budget that we now have, based on the trends, based on the spending and the budget requests that have come from this administration, we will be moving towards, over a 10-year period, towards total spending of nearly $50 trillion over a 10-year period. $50 trillion over a 10-year period. Now, if you remember the super committee that was created last year when the debt ceiling was raised, if you remember the super committee, they were challenged with the responsibility of cutting $1.2 trillion. They did not find $1.2 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years, in spite of us spending nearly $50 trillion. So, again, back to the sense of urgency. And it is bothersome to me. If you look at the total debt, in the next 10 years, it's forecasted that at our current rate, that 16.3 will be nearly $26 trillion. And it's bothersome that our debt, 50% of all of our debt, 50 cents of every dollar we spend is borrowed. None of you spend money like that. You can't.
Isn't the dollar worth about 43 cents?
Well, That's about right. So we borrow more than the dollar, the current value of the dollar. So we've got to make some very, very difficult choices. Now, I have learned in my short political career that there are no good deeds that go unpunished. That if you put out an idea, if you float an idea that could be considered as a solution, oh, you'll pay for it. You'll pay. And so, but we're at a point now to where if we do not deal with what I believe is the most predictable crisis that we have ever faced in this country. This isn't a guess. This isn't full of uncertainty. We know that we can't continue that. We cannot. It is not sustainable. And so what we've got to do is we've got to have solutions. Many people in Washington, D.C. would much rather do a deal than a solution. We need solutions. Yes, sir.
What, in your estimation now, what is it that we need to do to stop this?
As a country, or are you talking about as...
Well, I mean, at this point, government has had decades to solve this problem, and government has not. I would say that leaves the people. I mean, what? I can't even fathom this. I mean, those figures, to be honest with you, they're written up there so they can be seen and everything, but those are unfathomable.
Yeah, it's hard to get your arms around these figures. And I've tried to put them in a way, I've tried to describe them to people in a way that they can understand them. And I will say the only way that I can try to put this in perspective is try to remember the first time that I ever went to the Grand Canyon. How many of you have been to the Grand Canyon? You remember the day you walked from the parking lot, you parked your car, and you walked up through, I remember the little visitor center that we went through, and what appeared, you said, okay, that's the Grand Canyon. It appeared first as a shadow. It was darker than the rest of the landscape. I'll never forget as we walked out and towards the edge here where the rail was. It took your breath away. You remember that? You've never seen anything. You understood why it is one of the 8 wonders of the world. You've never seen anything like that in your life. You didn't know how to put it in perspective. You couldn't compare it to anything. You certainly couldn't compare that to the ditch behind the house. I mean, it is something that is so big, so massive, that it demanded your respect. It demanded your acknowledgement. And then, after taking that first step back, which was my first after I took a gasp and then took a step back, and once I started to kind of pause there for a second, then I began to sneak back up to the rail. And as I stood there, I could not believe the depth, the breadth, how massive this hole was. Well, as I am in Washington now, and I'm getting reports, and I'm talking to economists, and I'm learning more about the way our federal government does business. That's the only way I can compare that to.
I guess it prompted me to ask that question, and obviously I'm asking it of myself as well as everybody else. But, like, for instance, the Tea Party movement formed a year or two ago because they saw these numbers and they said, this is ridiculous. And those people have been considered to be radicals. Is that what it's going to take? Is it going to take a radical movement to resolve this problem?
Well, I don't think that number right there is Democrat. I don't think that number is Republican. I think it's math. It's just simple math. I mean, I can't say that it is. It's hard. I don't want to put a political tag on it or a party tag on it. I mean, I don't think it's independent. I don't think only, and I know we've got some independents here, because some of you, when you walked in, you made sure I understood that, and I get that, okay? And I don't blame you. I think that, so this isn't something that just independents get. This isn't something that just members of the Tea Party get. This is simple. If you have walking around sense, if you have common sense, you understand you can't go down this path forever. And here's the thing, and if you don't understand that, then you are not being truthful, and you are not a realist, and you certainly do not need to be in a position of power, because you are very, very dangerous. And that's just, and again, that's just math. That's just math. And I'm bothered that in the previous administration, as I noted, that we spent money that we didn't have. And in the last 3.5 years, we've continued that pace, at even a stronger pace. We've racked up over $5 trillion in additional debt in the last 3 years. And if you look at these projections, we're going to rack up another $10 trillion over the next 10 years.
Sounds like a bunch of drunken sailors on shore leave to me.
Well, let me tell you something. I would say to you, what do you have against drunken sailors?
I was one, but I stopped when I ran out of money.
My point is...
Damn, where's the brain here? Where's the morals and the ethics of cutting the wallet out from under them?
I would agree.
And they're lying to us just like they lie to everybody else.
Well...
Why are we supporting Pakistan? Why are we supporting all those foreign countries?
Well, there's a lot of individual specific issues like that, foreign aid and all those that... One of the things I've noticed since I've been in Washington is it's a shell game. The budgeting process is a shell game. And the only way to get this moving in the right direction, and this is a pretty big ship to move. I mean, I've heard, you in the Navy, I've heard it takes 5 miles to turn an aircraft carrier.
I was on one, tell us about that.
And so I've been on one, but I've never served on one. And so therefore, this is an aircraft carrier. And so it takes us a ways to turn this beast. So therefore, what we've got to do, though, is we've got to be honest with a budget. Now, talking about budgets, you can be a first-year financial planner right out of school. And you can have a client come in, and if they come in and they're spending almost 100% more than they have coming in, if their debt is over 106% of their total economic output, the first thing you're going to do as a first-year financial planner is say, okay, based on your revenue, we must develop a budget. I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's just a Republican idea. Okay? That's just common sense. So imagine my anger, that the Senate hasn't produced a budget in almost 1,100 days. 2010, 2011, 2012, and Harry Reid made the announcement last month that he has no intention of producing a budget for 2013. This is the largest economy in the world. How in the world can we protect our children's future if we don't start, not a Republican idea, a Democratic idea, an independent idea, but a math idea? That's aggravating to me. That's aggravating. And so, I think that we first have to deal with a budget. We have to have the willingness to put forth a budget. Okay, not just criticize other budgets when other people put them forward. Give me an idea. Have you ever played tennis and hit a tennis ball across a net and never had it returned?
You was good.
No, but what I'm saying is okay, that's different.
All right.
No, the point is, you hit a tennis ball, you want somebody to hit it back to you. You want to have, you want to create something. But we've got no budget coming back. And there's a sense of urgency here, I know in my life, that we've got to address this. Now, when we have a budget, there's some things we have to do. We have to change the way that Washington does budgeting. When you hear people talk about budget, we need to talk about, there's something called budget authority. And usually when you hear the budget committees and everything, they talk about budget authority. But budget authority is kind of a figment of everybody's imagination. When they say that they're going to make a cut, that doesn't actually mean that they're going to make a cut. Because there's another word that means new outlays.
Misappropriation.
Well, and what it says is, they're using terms that the American people aren't familiar with. And it's a shell game. What I want to see do is I want to see them talk in terms of what we're spending, what is new outlay, or what is new cuts. When they speak in what they call budget authority, it doesn't mean that. It's pie in the sky. So until we start talking in truthful terms with the American people and with ourselves, so there's a bill that's got bipartisan support. It's called the Honest Budget Act. And in the House, it was sponsored by I'm a co-sponsor on the bill, but it was originally introduced by Martha Roby from Alabama, and it does away with the smoke and mirrors. And it says, when you say $1, you mean $1. When you say $1,000, you mean $1,000. And until you deal with honest vocabulary, there's no way that you can get your hands around the problem. I also am very proud to be a part of a bipartisan bill that says no budget, no pay. No budget, no pay. Congress has a responsibility to produce a budget. It's in the Constitution. We don't have to pray about that one. It's our responsibility. And if we do not produce a budget and the 12 appropriations bills that are to go with it, then we don't get paid. And if we don't do it by March, April comes, if we pass a budget, we don't get back pay for March. In other words, do your job or you don't get paid. But paying people to not work, paying people for not doing their job, I want you to know that goes down and violates my very core values. In our family, when the sun came up, you worked. My grandfather started our family business 60 years ago. With a 6th grade education, $3,000 of borrowed money, an honorable discharge from the Navy, couldn't afford a house and a business, so the house was upstairs. They lived upstairs, and my grandparents' business was downstairs. And I was a little fella. I would spend the night with them on Friday nights. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And our family has grown because we have worked and we have built our business based on that belief that when the sun comes up, you work. And in our business, I'll tell you, when the sun goes down, you keep working. Our family's in the funeral business. We've never been closed a day. Not a Christmas, a Thanksgiving, a New Year's, an Easter. We work because that's the nature of our business. But I really believe in this country that somehow we jumped track. Somehow we started rewarding things other than merit. We started rewarding people for things other than effort. And I'm bothered that for hundreds of years, this country has acknowledged earned success. You know what it's like to earn a living after putting in a good, honest, hard day's work. You come home, you take a shower, you get something to eat, and you lay down. The sense of satisfaction that you did it right. That's earned success. And in this country, we've rewarded that in the past. The problem is we're now sliding in a direction that penalizes the producer, that penalizes the maker, and rewards those that just want to take. Now, not everybody that takes is bad. We have people that have worked their whole life, they've retired, or they've been born into a situation where they cannot produce, for whatever that reason is. But if you are of working age, you are mentally, physically, psychologically able, it is imperative that you go to work. You go to work. It's funny, I get people that tell me, just like I did at our town hall meeting this morning over in Franklin County, they started talking about the immigration issue. You can't begin to get your arms around the immigration issue until you deal with the entitlement issue. The entitlement issue of paying people that are of working age, physically, mentally, psychologically able, who have made a decision not to work, as long as someone else who's working will fit the bill. That didn't happen in our house. When I was a little boy, we worked. We did our part. We washed cars. We mowed the grass. My dad didn't pay, in our family business, they didn't pay for a lawn service or somebody else to wash the cars or somebody else to vacuum the floors or take out the garbage. We did that. And that's one of the best things that they could have ever done. And that's what we're now doing to our daughters. We have 4 daughters. And in our house, when you turn 15, you go to work for someone else other than Dad. So I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are all over 15. And they work. They're bussing tables. They're waitressing at restaurants. They're being hostesses. But they work. Am I being mean to them? No. I'm trying to teach them the value of earned success. Earned success. It's good.
I still work and I'm 85 years old.
85 years old and still work. You like earned success,
I've been
don't
working
you?
since I was about 15.
15. That's a magical age in our house. I tell my children all the time, I said, girls, I said, I hate to tell you, I said, but there was work in the Garden of Eden before the fall. I said, it wasn't a penalty for the fall. Look at it. God put Adam in the garden to work it. Work it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming to Crawfordville.
Well, thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it. And I know that it bothers you as well as the rest of us about our budget and the debt that we have. And that there's difficult decisions that you guys have to make up in Washington anyway. So what is your opinion about the very wealthy paying their share of the taxes? It seems to me that it's the middle class and the low income people that are being taxed, and that the wealthy are not paying their fair share of their income,
Can I ask you what that fair share is?
their gross income.
No, but what is your idea of fair?
Well, there's certain percentages of taxes that we pay based on our income.
I understand that.
So whatever their income is, I don't know. Some of them make billions, some make millions. I don't know.
Well, what is, and this is not a set-up question.
Yeah,
And I'm asking,
Yeah.
what is the percentage that Wakulla County believes? What is the maximum level that any government, not just our government, should be able to tax anyone for their work or the money that they make? What is that?
It's based on their gross income.
No, I understand what it's based on,
Okay.
but I'm saying, what is fair?
I'd like to try something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And I'm not being evasive.
I know
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I own a business, and, taxes and that sort of thing. The more I'm taxed, the fewer people just when they come in. Now, what I do is if I make money from this business, I reinvest it by hiring more people, buying more equipment, and that sort of thing, okay? So, the choice is I can either pay more in taxes and not hire anybody, and then I guess the government can then take my money and give it to people who don't work. Or I can give them a job. And so this is where the way I look at it, from being someone, and I believe, trust me, I don't make a lot of money. I don't make a lot of money, and I'm very proud to show you what it is. As a matter of fact,
You're not one of the billionaires and millionaires.
but the principle is the same.
Well, let me say,
Steve, if I can,
And
I work for millionaires and billionaires. I do. I work for some of the wealthiest people in the world. All right? And
My brother's one.
and these people are they give me, right? They give a lot of people jobs, and they have worked very hard for the level that they have taken. And without them giving all of us jobs, then I guess their choice would be to give their money to the government.
Well, I'm gonna let him define that.
It's been proven for many years that the trickle down.
Let me say this though, it is without question,
No, it doesn't.
it is without question a fact that if you create an environment and you tax an entity too much and you regulate an entity too much, they will leave. Okay, we are now the highest corporate tax rate in all of the developmental world. Okay, higher than Japan. Now people say to me,
Highest effective,
I'm sorry?
highest effective or highest tax rate?
High corporate tax rate. If you take state,
The effective rate or the actual, or the rate is this, what is the effective rate?
well, you know, I don't know, but I know that the actual rate. If you take the corporate rate and in many you take a state rate, because there's a lot of states that obviously have the state income tax rate.
But if you add in all the loopholes and all the...
Now, wait a minute. I'm a small business owner. Now, let me...
I am too.
Okay, so you and I are the same. Okay? Are you taking advantage of loopholes?
I don't know, ask my CPA. I pay my taxes, whatever it says. And I pay a lot of taxes, it's a good thing.
Yes,
Because I'm making money.
It's the fair amount.
Yeah.
It's not an amount that's fair. It's the percentage. If everyone is
And that's what I
paying
meant, the percentage.
If everyone is paying the same percentage, I say that's fair.
But you got too many loopholes that I've never had.
Paying the same percentage as the middle class, that's fair.
Same
Take
percentage
away
of
the
their
loopholes.
gross income, is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Are you saying the percentage of their gross income?
You take away the loopholes. You keep the home mortgage and certain things in, but a lot of the loopholes that are there, they need to go. But right now,
Yeah,
the
there's a
top
lot of
1%,
loopholes,
the
that's
top
what I'm trying to
1%.
say.
Well, and let me say this, then you would be very pleased with the Republican budget because the Republican budget eliminates some of those loopholes.
Which
What
one?
are some of the loopholes
So-
that's in the plan?
Well, I think that I'm not on budget committee, okay? But I do know this. I do know that the corporate tax rate goes from a 6-tiered system to a 2-tiered system, down to 25% for corporate tax, whether it's an S corporation or whether it is a C corporation, and then you will. But it's not just a tax issue, because I have people tell me, well, we're paying the lowest tax rate that we paid in quite some time. I disagree with that, but that's one of the things I have people tell me. But one thing that it was without question, go to the second, the next one, is it's not just taxes, it's regulations. And so it's not just about taxes. And by the way, you say that it is the lowest, income earners that pay the most taxes. I mean, almost 52% of our country, 52% pay nothing. Okay, they will file. Well, they get $10,000. Some get $10,000 refund checks back, and they've paid nothing. Now, let me say this: we continue, as a nation, we continue to fall. There's an index out there that I like following. It's called the Index of Economic Freedom. America continues to fall down that list of economically free countries. But if you look at our country, we believe in a social safety net. I would assume you do.
I do.
Okay? Well, then if you appreciate a social safety net, then I think all of us agree that those who are in a situation where they cannot help the situation they're in, and they're not in that category of a working age, physically, mentally, psychologically able to work, then the best way to make sure that they have and the services and they're cared for is to fund the social safety net. And how do you fund a social safety net? That's an open question.
Tax.
Well, wait a minute. You got to have businesses that open. You got to have small businesses that are willing to come here, you know, and open up. Because if you don't have small businesses, which are 85% of our economy, 85% of our economy is not Fortune 500. It's not Wall Street. It's small mom and pop businesses. It's shrimpers. It's oystermen. I mean, it's us. And if you do not have small businesses that can go down to a local community bank and find that community partner to help finance that enterprise, and that's getting harder and harder. I have to tell you, with banks like People's First and Wakulla State Bank going by the wayside, if we don't have that ability, then we will not be funding, we will not have the economic activity to fund the social safety net. Now, earlier last year, Illinois, because it's such a well-run, fiscally, financially managed state, they raised their corporate tax rate to 65%. Who was thrilled about that?
Wisconsin.
In Indiana. Open for business. Come over here. Come over here. That's insane. You cannot expect people to create jobs while they are smothered by government intrusion. There needs to be a balance. I get that. I get that. But there's got to be some sanity to this. 65%? Is 65%, is that the rate? Back to your original question, because I don't want to be evasive. You know, you said those that pay their fair share. Is 65% of all of your economic activity in a year, is that the percentage rate? Should people pay 65% of every dollar that they earn to the federal government? No? So we know it's not that. We know it's not zero because everybody needs to pay something. Everybody needs to participate. I like to say you got to pay your civic rent. If you're taking from a community, you need to be giving back to a community. So we know it's not zero, and we now have determined that we know it's not 65. So what is it? I don't know the answer to that. But I know this, that if you get it wrong, you create a situation of flight. Businesses, people leave.
All of us in this room are paying more in taxes. We are the 1%.
You're the 1%?
No, that the wealthy is the 1%. And we're paying more taxes. Something's not right about it.
The top 1% is probably paying, what, 30%?
No, the top 1% pays something like, no, it's some ridiculous number. I mean, it's
80%.
It's ridiculous. And I apologize that I don't have. I mean, we could get it. We could do a Google search real quick, and I can get you that figure. But let me say this: you'd be terribly disappointed when you find out how much they do pay. Okay. Now the president. I want to be very fair. The president released his new proposed tax rates several months, probably 2 months ago, and he said, well, I want to lower the corporate tax rate to 28%. That's what he said. But when you drill down a little deeper into what the president said, as we did in our office, some companies who are producing in fields that he likes, they pay a 25% corporate tax rate. And if you just had the burden of not being in a field that the administration likes, then you pay 28. Now, I'm not a big fan of picking and choosing winners. I just want you to know, I'm not a big fan of that. But also included in that bill, he raises capital gains taxes to 65%. Now, why would I want to sell anything and pay a 65% tax rate? Would you sell any stock knowing that you've already paid taxes on it when you earn the income, and now you're going to pay a 65% tax when you sell the stock? Is there anybody in here that would sell that stock at a 65% tax rate? And why wouldn't you? Aren't you supposed to do your fair share? Why would you shook your head no. Why would you not do that?
I done worked my 42 damn years. I ain't giving you no more money. It ain't my fault that y'all can't spend it and can't get your shit together. That ain't my fault. Is that gum? I did my part.
Kind of put it in a local perspective.
I agree with you.
I guess what frustrates me the most and what I hear the people saying out here is most of us, good Americans, don't mind paying our taxes. What we're frustrated with, Congressman, is when we, and we know this is rampant, but when we see proof of it, like we have in the last week, where the GSA wasted $840,000 on a boondoggle, locally to us, that's almost a mill of taxes that we have to levy. If I can get that $840,000 as a commissioner to spend here, I can put it into the community, into expanding sewer or whatever it is to encourage business to come here,
right,
so that I can get more jobs in our community. But I can't because those yahoos are out on a boondoggle wasting our money. That's what really pees people off, is the inefficiency in government to be able to manage that. Why can't we do that at every level? And then I don't mind paying my taxes, but I do now. When I see that, I really want to stop paying my taxes.
And you know what? I'm trying to figure out why somebody wasn't given a pink slip immediately.
Well,
because if somebody on my staff,
but Congressman,
this is just a fact.
And I believe you. I think you're a good honorable.
Well, look, I gave back $200,000 a couple of weeks ago in my unused MRA. I was budgeted X amount. Well, I mean, you can look. I wasn't surrounded by 434 other people when I did it.
That's just $840,000. Just $840,000.
No, I get it.
Millions and billions are wasted on stuff that we don't need and we don't want, but we keep paying for it, and we're tired of it. The public out here is tired of it. And quite honestly, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at the local level for screaming at us. I certainly don't. You know, we got your ear right now. Sure. And there's 435 of you, if I'm not mistaken, sitting up there. If we filed y'all in here one at a time, you're probably all going to say pretty much the same thing.
Well, let me say this: there was only 8 of us standing there on the Capitol steps giving back unused dollars. Okay, so there wouldn't 435 of us there.
Yeah, right? Where'd that money go once you gave it back?
It goes to, where did the money go?
That's what I mean, and
it goes back to the
invest it in some other failed solar company.
So what do you want me to do? You want me to use it?
No, you probably could have used it better than they would.
I won't disagree with that.
But Congressman, we don't get any more earmarked money. We used to be able to get things like sewer money and infrastructure improvements from the federal government. We don't anymore because I don't know where it's going, but we can't get it anymore. So that we're talking Crawfordville, Wakulla County now. We've got to get down to our level, and the perspective is that where is our share? Just give us something that we can work with. We don't have anything. We never get anything anymore. We used to years ago, not anymore.
Well, let me say this. I know this. In the last 3 years, and I've been there 15 months. I haven't been there for 3 years. Okay, the last 3 years, discretionary spending, and that's spending out of want to, has increased 83%. 83%. And I can give you example after example after example of abuses of where that dollar has gone. Okay? Well, it's everything. I mean, look, guys, I don't, look, when my business is hurting, I don't take a vacation. I've paid paychecks and not gotten one. That's what people do. I mean, by the way, I think you all know I've never served in an elected position until 15 months ago. 15 months ago, I'm sitting right where you're sitting right now. Frustrated, aggravated, angry at what I'm seeing. So what did I do? I got up out of my pew and I ran for Congress. The frustration hasn't subsided. The anger, it's only increased. And so therefore, I think that to answer your question, the top 10% pay nearly 71% of all the revenues into the general treasury. Well, I just pulled this up. This is,
They pay 71%
all.
Let's find another, because she's doubting now. Let's find another. There's got to be.
That's true, I've seen.
Is that the revenue they pay or the percentage that they're in?
Well, it says, I'm just reading you what it says. It says, who pays income taxes and how much? Now, this is tax year 2009. Again, this is not my page. We just did a Google search, so don't.
Yeah, I understand.
Percentage of federal personal income tax paid. The top 10% pay 70.47%. The top 5% pay 58.66%. And the top 1%, I was reading.
I know, we need to look, you have to take those on one side, you know how that is.
Well, let's find another one.
Can I
I want you to know I'm not stacking the deck against you here.
ask you a question?
Jeez.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
And then you're next.
Now, we know, everybody knows that the federal government is grown, and it's large,
Slightly.
and that there's,
Grand Canyon.
and the taxpayers are being asked to fund too many big government programs. Right? So, my question is explain to me why you are introducing legislation that's going to create more taxes by the citizens so that they can bail out people who live on the coastline that make poor development decisions by building on the coastline. Now, and I'm reading from an article that was in the newspaper. Have you seen it? Okay.
Well, they're always right.
Well, they're right here. Because
Oh,
something
but this side right here is.
No, this is you're introducing this legislation, right? What paper was that? It was a Democrat. In the legislation, the bill is HR 4150. And it involves the Cape Sandblass area and the Indian Pass Peninsula, which is highly vulnerable to storm surges. It's a barrier island. And we don't want to be picking up the tab when the next refurbishment project is needed, when their homes are blown down. I mean, they need to buy their own insurance if they're going to build them, right?
I would agree.
Well, tell me what this is. Tell me what this legislation is.
Well, I want them to be able to get. I want them to be able to get to purchase their insurance. Okay. I mean, we have. I grew up in Panama City. I grew up over there, so I want them to be able to get, be able to go to an open market and be able to get their insurance and have other choices other than like Citizens, which has not turned out to be a very big deal in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And so, and also I want to make sure, I do believe that beach renourishment, okay, even though that's difficult for me to stomach as right now in the fiscal situation we're in, but I do know that we also have, and we have beach renourishment projects, that people do come down here to our coast for our beaches. It is, if we do not have people coming down here to these beaches, then I'm going to continue to hear from county commissioners that we don't have enough money to pay roads.
I'm not talking about that.
And so therefore, now what you mentioned beach renourishment projects.
Where the wealthy people have built their homes. We don't want to have to pay
I understand
in
that.
taxes to help rebuild their homes and take care of their property when they shouldn't have built there to start with.
Correct. And that's not what this does.
Well,
What this
you
does.
might want to go back and take a look at this article and tell me what's the HR 4150. That's your legislation. What does that do?
What I'm saying is this legislation allows for private insurers to offer their goods, their services to those individuals that have their homes there. If you build a home, I want you to be able to insure your property.
Right.
Okay? I don't want you to be able to build a home in a place like on the side of a volcano.
Can't get insurance.
So where you can't get insurance. So, yes, ma'am. And let me say this. And I haven't read the article, so in all fairness to me, I'd like to read the article and understand what it.
Okay.
And I'm happy to continue to communicate with you
Okay,
on
thank
that.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just perfect, your last statement about the certainly is all of our incredible natural resources, and you're on that natural resources committee, and you're also on the transportation committee. And really, really important to us in our tourism industry is the National Scenic Byways program, which is part of the National Scenic Byways program, which is part of the transportation bill that I think from the House side, at least from what I understand, was due to be completely eliminated. And so I just wanted to let you know that, that's a really important piece of our tourism development. Tourism, is a huge economic engine for our county.
Sure.
The National Scenic Byways program, I would just urge you to really look at the return on investment. The amount of funding is relatively small to the return on investment that we get. You've probably heard statistics,
well, let me say this. Currently, that bill in its state, currently that bill in its current state, I will not vote for. Okay, so right now we passed a 90-day. We passed a 90-day transportation bill, a 90-day stopgap, which was really to continue at the current levels that we were at. The Senate passed a 2-year version of the transportation bill. We were, the one in the House was a 5-year bill, and they didn't have the votes. So, in its current form, I will not vote for that bill. Now, I am one of 435. Okay, but in its current form, I will not vote for that. And I will say this: I would love an opportunity. I came up through the chamber. I've served on the EDA board. I came up through economic development. Being from Panama City, I understand the beach and the tourism. And if we don't have the heads in the beds, you don't have money in your county, your budgets, and so I mean I get that. So I would. I'll be happy. Let me say this on that. And the transportation bill is a massive bill.
Yes.
It's kind of like an ag bill, kind of like a farm bill. It's massive. So we are obviously pleased with some things in it, but I have greater concern with other things in it. And so, in its current form right now, I've got issues with it. But they didn't have the votes, so I don't think what the transportation bill is now will necessarily be what it will be, after the 90 days stopgap.
Well, just to reiterate that the program is not just a give-me kind of program. In order to be designated as a National Scenic Byway, it takes huge grassroots community support and participation. So,
right.
And that's personally, that's what I think we need to really encourage in this country anyway, is
right.
How to help people help themselves, and that program is the model for that. So anything that you can do to help us.
If you're still here when our town hall meeting's over, I would love to.
I'll actually be in Tennessee at your meet and greet.
Oh, good. Well, I would love to. I'd love for you and I to have further discuss that, because and by the way, I drove that today, and it's absolutely. Man, it was hard to come stay at work when you're looking out. It's gorgeous. So, yes, sir.
It's our big son.
Yes, sir.
Where are you on term limits?
Well, I think I'm not a fan of term limits, and I think that you have term limits every 2 years in the House, 6 years in the Senate. I think that I don't understand why I would want to vote ourselves, less freedom. I think that when the people decide, well, that's my opinion.
I vote against more people than I vote for.
Well,
that's where we are in voting.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate that.
A person up there getting defeated very often. As you mentioned, the head of the Senate, he won't do anything. Keep him out. But we can't, because he has money.
Well, look, I defeated a 7-term congressman. A Republican had not won our seat, since 1882. But when the American people said enough's enough, you can vote them out. Last year, the Blue Dogs, they were 57 strong. They were sawed in half to 24. Why?
That's the way you got elected, actually. Getting rid of the other guy.
Well, and let me say this. I have met people that are there that are doing a phenomenal job. And to say that, but, you know, I mean, I think that I'm not for voting myself less freedom. And let me say this, since I've been there, if you think that would solve the problem, the bureaucrats are licking their chops at you getting rid of the elected people so that they, as career bureaucrats, have total run of the city. So if you think that taking the one piece of representatives that you have out of the equation, if you think that the 5 wealthiest counties of America that surround Washington, D.C. are going to be less irresponsible because you take elected officials out of the process, I disagree, but that's okay. That's all right.
I got one. Why don't we just make them put all the money in bonds when you get in there, and then we'll know if it crooks? Because then if they get any extra money from anywhere else, we'll know it's not legal money.
Well, let me ask you a question on that. You know, and I see, you know, we have the very well-documented insider trading, okay? And I don't believe that any member of Congress should have any advantage over anyone. And I think the laws we pass should apply to us as much as they apply to the American people. I've been very clear. The term limits won't create that. Okay, that's a personal belief that I have. You know, I think what's happened in D.C. is that you have in many ways handcuffed. If you're a doctor, or you're an attorney, or you are in financial services, let's say you're in insurance, you have to sell your business to go to Congress. You have to sell your business.
But do they?
They have to. They don't have any choice. So let me make sure. Let's follow through this. If you've made it to where an individual gets elected and has to sell their business, haven't you created an environment? Well, then they'll want to do anything possible to stay because you just made them burn their bridge from their entire career. I don't understand that. Personally.
I just figured the easiest way to stop half the crooks from being crooks and to make their morals and their ethics work better for them is to stop the money. You know? I mean, the thought of it is, okay, you get elected official, all right, you got $7 million. All right, that's your personal assets.
Right.
Well, put them in bonds.
Well, first of all, you can't put a family business in a bond.
No. But, all right, like you just said, Senate has to sell their business. But see, like, you got to have somebody else that takes the greed out of the dollar.
Well, wait a minute now. So what I'm saying, and I'm not opposed to. We have to have reform. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, just who's going? Look at me. Who is for me to sell my business that my grandfather started 60 years ago?